Hello, I'm Stacey at Birch & Button, and today we are looking at how to paint this sunset painting with acrylic paint. So it's a really pretty simple one actually. Not too many steps to this, but it's a lot of blending, as you can see. My top tip would be not to do this on a really hot day. If it's warm inside your, like whatever room you're painting in, the paint will dry a lot quicker. This is what I found today because it's really warm here in the UK at the minute. And yeah, the room that I'm in is pretty warm. So I was having fun blending the paint. So that's just something to bear in mind. But that being said, this is a really fun painting. So yeah, let's just get into it. Okay, so let's get going. As you can see, I've already taped off the edges of my Canson mixed media paper here. I mean, you don't need to do that, it's entirely up to you. You can just paint straight onto the page, but I just like the nice crisp edge. So I'm just gonna pop my paint out now. I've got my phthalo blue, which will be at the top strip. I've got my process magenta, which will be the next sort of strip down, like a gradient, obviously, as you've seen already. Next then, cadmium red hue, lemon yellow, and a bit of titanium white, just to mix into that yellow at the end and for the sun as well. So I'm just going to pop those out. I'm going to not put the black out just yet because it's boiling here today, so it will be dry before I even need to use it, so I'll do that a bit later. So I'm just wetting my brush a little bit and just squeezing off any excess water on the side of the jar so it's damp but not really wet. I'm going to go into my phthalo blue and just start painting the top of the page here. And then what I'm going to do now is start mixing in, with the same brush, start mixing in the pink. I've just popped a little bit more water down where I'm going to be blending, just to stop the paint drying hopefully, because as I said, it's really warm here today, so I'm trying to work fast, but acrylic paint does dry very quickly. So I'm just blending in some of the process magenta. You could use permanent rose or something like that if that's what you've got instead. That's absolutely fine. So I'm painting a bit of the pink onto the page and then I'm just sort of taking it up into the blue and then just smoothing over the join. A bit more of this pink. Heavy body paint, so it's very thick. This one is thicker than my other heavy body paint, so I'm just gonna wet my brush a little bit more then, just to get the pink to come off nice and easily. So lots of blending, and then now what I'm going to do is grab a clean brush for the next blend, because I don't really want any blue left on my brush for when I blend the red into the magenta. So clean brush, so same process, just wet the brush, squeeze the water off into the red paint, and then onto the page. And I only want a small amount of the red. It's quite a lot here actually, so I've gone and used one of my bigger brushes, but you can take the original brush that you were using for the pink and just use that to blend there, and then where we've got the red we want to go in with some yellow now, blend that in. I'm just going to wipe off as much of the excess paint as I can. I was a bit generous there with my red paint. Just take that up like that. I'm going to grab another clean brush, just pick up quite a lot of yellow paint. Pop that down there. And then I'll go back in, blend this out here. This is a very strong red, as you can see, so trying to use as little of that as possible in this blend here, because otherwise I'll have a lot of the orange. So that looks good. More yellow here, and then I'll start to pick up a bit of the white as well. This is also a bit drier, this paint, so just pick up a tiny bit of water just to make it easier to blend. Oops, and pick up a bit of white and just blend that in to make a really nice pale yellow. Don't worry if any of your colours come out streaky. I feel like this is something I say quite a lot in like all of my tutorials basically. But I honestly don't think it matters for this either. It's one of those things that it's really good in a way to have a few streaks, because it just makes it look more natural, a bit more realistic. And I know this isn't really what we're going for with this. We're not going for a sort of a super realistic look, but it just helps add to the sort of charm of the painting. So there we are. So the yellow band is sort of almost as much as the other colours combined, you can see there. So this bit needs to dry now, but before we go off and let that dry, just get a smaller brush and we're going to paint the sun in. For that we're going to start with, so I've got a bit of yellow here. It doesn't need to be a lot because we don't want it to be pure yellow. We're going to add a bit of white into that, and we're going to add a couple of layers onto the sun anyway, so that's fine. So I'm going to put mine, let's see, I'm going to put the ground in the sort of the hills around here, so maybe let's put the sun here. Painting in a small sort of circle, freehand. Add a bit more white, just to make that stand out a little bit more. Although we don't want it to be pure white, so you keep the same brush that you've been using, just so there's some yellow on it as well. And then, so this isn't the only layer we're going to do. We're going to come back into this because I think it obviously looks quite faint at the moment. But just so that you know where you want the sun to be, add a bit more white into this sort of side of it. Take that all the way around. Cool. I'll leave that to dry now. Okay, so first things first, now the paint is dry, I'm just going to go back into the sun, add a little bit more to that. So I'm just wetting my brush and picking up a little yellow, and when I say a little yellow I mean a teeny tiny bit of yellow this time, because we want it to be really bright, the sun. So we want it to mainly be white paint that we're using. Great, that looks good. Don't worry if you can't paint, you know, a freehand circle perfectly. I'm not sure many people can, so just, you know, go with what you can do. So now we're going to come in to add the hills. So I'm just picking up some pure black. I've got Mars Black, a Liquitex Mars Black here, and I am just going to, because I mean really this is mainly about this kind of gradient of colour, this sort of sunset painting, so I'm just going to paint in some fairly simple hill shapes, just to kind of show that there's some ground there, but it's not really the focus of this painting, so don't worry too much. Kind of just go with the flow basically with the shape. And obviously think about where you've placed your sun, don't kind of accidentally paint over your sun. Bring this one up. So kind of, well, my sunset is kind of, or the sun is setting, should I say, between two sort of hills. So you can always add to it, don't forget. But it's easier to add to it than try and sort of paint over it, especially when you're working with pure black. It's a strong colour. Let's see, how do I feel about that? Maybe a bit more on the left here. I don't want it to be 100% symmetrical, but kind of want to give it a bit more on the left there. I think I like that. Say that, then I go and add straight away some more. It's one of those things as well that you're in danger of just keeping adding and adding and adding. As I said, the sort of the ground in the, or the sort of the hills in the foreground here aren't really the focus of this. The main sort of interest we want to be this rainbow sunset sky. So yeah, okay, I'm happy with that. I'm going to stop fiddling with that now. So all that's left to do now is remove the masking tape, but we can also add some sort of sun rays as well. That's something that is completely optional, because you might be really happy with your painting as it is now and not want to add to it. But to do that, we need this black paint to be dry, because we kind of obviously will bring the sun rays down over the black, and we don't want to make any weird grey colours. So this is completely dry now. I've removed the tape, as you can see. I had to go and take this to another room to use my hairdryer, because that helps when you're removing tape so it doesn't take the surface of the paper off, but I just couldn't bear to use the hairdryer in here, so it's just, yeah, too warm for that today. So I'm now about to kind of go into the sun's rays. So to do that, you want a fairly dry brush. I'm using a really small brush, like a square flat tipped brush. And you want very little paint, because the idea is we're going to do gentle strokes. Let me see, this bit's dry, so I'll show you on this sort of red bit here. We're just doing very gentle feathery strokes, just to kind of, you can sort of see there, just to suggest a bit of soft light coming off the sun. You absolutely don't have to do this bit if you're a bit worried now that you kind of love your painting as it is and you're like, oh god, I really don't want to risk ruining it. It's definitely, you know, absolutely fine, you don't have to do it, but it's just like an extra nice touch. So what we're going to do is come sort of out from the sun, obviously, in a kind of a straight line, so just really light pressure, just like that. And it's really, really soft. That is what we want. So I'm going to pick up a bit more paint. This is kind of mostly white, but I've still got a little bit of the yellow on my brush from earlier. So let's just bring one straight down here, and you can see it's gone onto the black hills, which I like. So that's one reason why, you know, why we really wanted it to be nice and dry, that paint. So I'm just kind of doing one from the top, one from the left, one from the right, one from the bottom, just so I can kind of space them out. good trying to do this. Best to do it outwards from the sun, so then you get the most colour off your brush right by the sun, and then it kind of just softly diffuses out like that. So a little bit more yellow. Everything is so dry. I don't know if there's any dry, any of those patches of paint still wet. Yeah, just like that. Just filling in the gaps with some really light strokes. Oh yeah, so I've carried on going all the way around the sun, just adding in those soft sort of flares of light almost. I'm just going to come back in and grab some more white just to go over the sun once more, just to make it even brighter. As I said, you really don't have to worry about doing these rays if you're kind of worried about, you know, it not turning out quite right or whatever. I used the same brush that I painted the sun with, so it kind of had the right colours on it already. Yeah, you don't need a massive brush for this, although you can use a bigger one than I've used, and just do sort of fewer strokes off the sun. It's entirely up to you. So yeah, this sunset painting is complete now. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I will see you again in the next one. Bye!